You might find yourself in different kinds of unhealthy relationships, whether it's friendships or significant others. And you might be thinking that there's something wrong with me because I keep attracting these kinds of people. Why is it that I can have a relationship with healthy people? What is it about me? And so I really want to shine the light on reality and the reality of why narcissists abuse, hopefully so that it takes some of that internalized shame away from you. And after you hear the last one that I'm going to mention, hopefully it gives you some empowerment to change your circumstances. Okay. That being said, let's dive in. Okay, my friends, this is me interrupting me because I want you to know of a valuable resource that is helpful when you're healing from emotional trauma. Transformational healing begins when we start putting the focus on these wounded pieces of us that are inside. From now until the end of this month, I'm offering a year membership in the School of Transformation. So if you think this is a resource that could be helpful for you, make sure you join before the sale ends. Okay, so let's talk about those reasons. Number one is that if you're dealing with a malignant narcissist, it's different than somebody that is narcissistic, right? Somebody that can be high on the scale and be very self-entitled, very selfish, very into themselves, and not be a malignant narcissist. When they step into that realm of being a malignant narcissist, now they are abusive and manipulative. Now it is a disorder. And people that have that disorder actually get pleasure from seeing other people in pain. The pain of others gives them a sense of, if they're in pain, they're here and I'm up here. I'm better, I'm superior. So they actually feel pleasure in seeing other people in pain. Another reason they might abuse is because maybe they were abused as well. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, so was I, and I don't abuse anybody. And yes, that's extremely true, right? Narcissists and codependents often have the same wound that shows up differently. A codependent can have narcissistic parents that abused them, and maybe because their trauma response was maybe freeze or fawn, that moves that person into the realm of codependency. Whereas another child, same circumstances, same situation, has a very strong fight response, they can become like the narcissist, right? So it's their trauma response that can determine, as well as the role that they played. So depending on the role that they were forced to be in, if you were the scapegoated child, you're more likely to wind up becoming a codependent, and a golden child winds up becoming a narcissist. So those are just some circumstances that can lend to which way the child is going to handle that wound. But the reality is that if that is the template through which we lived in our family system and we don't learn anything else, then we wind up recreating that family system as an adult. Number three, narcissists abuse because they don't know how to regulate their own emotions. In fact, if you really watch a narcissist in narcissistic rage or having narcissistic rage, they're very much like a full-grown adult toddler. Just like a toddler that's upset when they don't get their way, they are out of control. There is no reason with that toddler at that moment where they're at that heightened state of emotion. That's exactly how a narcissist is. There's no ability to handle any overwhelming emotion, whether it's pain, whether it's disappointment, whether it's being upset, feeling hurt. And so as a result, like a toddler, they act it out, and that can create an extremely abusive environment. One of the most common reasons why narcissists wind up abusing is because their goal in life is to control you. They want to control your perception of yourself. They want to control your perception. Can't even talk. They want to control your perception of reality. They want to control how other people see you. They want to control who you spend time with, how much money you spend. They want to control how you breathe the air. And so as a result of this desire to control, they have all of these abuse tactics. They gaslight, they erode your self-esteem, they blame shift, they project. They do all of these things, all of these manipulation tactics with the goal to keep you in whatever role they have forced you to be in, to shove you in whatever emotional state they want you to be in, right? Because narcissists don't want you happy. They don't want you excited. They want you depressed. They want you looking like you're sick, like you have a mental illness, because they do. And so combining with the other one that they don't regulate their emotions by seeing your dysregulation regulates them. They're like, oh, Michele looks mentally ill. That means I'm sane. Michelle's depressed. That means I'm not depressed. I thought I was for a second, but I see it in her now. So I'm good. And so they need to control your emotional states. They need to control how you see yourself. They need to control your thoughts. They need to control your life. Number 6, narcissists abuse because they have no boundaries. They literally don't know where they end and you begin. We always hear that expression that you're an extension of the narcissist. Well, what does that mean? Well, like my hand is an extension of me, right? It's still mine. I could do whatever I want with it. Well, that's kind of how the narcissist is with how they view people that they consider to be extensions of them. They can do whatever they want because it's part of them. It's their right to do whatever they want, to treat that person however they want, because in their mind, there is no separation. You do not have rights. Number 7, narcissists abuse because they have no empathy. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients tell me, Michele, I could be lying on the floor crying and they'll hop over me like they're playing hopscotch, and it means nothing to them. There's not an emotional component that wakes up when they see me in pain. See me happy, and whoa, that really wakes something up in them. But see me in pain, and it's like nothing. I could be pouring out blood and they wouldn't think twice about it. So that's why it's so easy for them to continue abuse for so long. I know I get clients sometimes, they're like, how could they do that? Like, how could they treat somebody like that? Because it doesn't touch them. It would be like if I had no sensation in my hand and I can touch a pot that was like, burning hot and it does nothing. Well, how can I do that? Well, because I have no sensation here. I have all my nerves are dead. Well, their mirror neurons that allow for empathy, it's as if they don't have any, or they have so few that it just doesn't wake up inside of them. Narcissists abuse you to keep you in the relationship. Oftentimes, part of their covert abuse is to make you feel not good enough. Nothing you do pleases them, right? So what happens is when you feel that low about yourself and they're chipping away constantly at your self-esteem, your self-perception, what happens is you don't think you deserve anything else. And you wind up staying and enduring abuse, really believing that it's your fault and there's nothing you can do about it. So those are 8 reasons why narcissists abuse. Again, I know that you guys can probably come up with tons more reasons. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your reasons that you've seen as well. However, I want to mention the last one because the last one is the most important, I feel. Okay, because all of those 8 have more to do with the narcissist than they do with you. And the reality is that the 9th reason narcissists abuse or wind up abusing you is because you don't realize you're being abused. Maybe you were brought up in unhealthy dynamics, or maybe you have negative beliefs inside that the narcissist was able to hone in on, feeling maybe inferior or not good enough or unworthy for whatever reason. And the narcissist kind of hijacks your subconscious beliefs. And especially if they're a covert abuser, maybe they don't call you names. Maybe they don't scream and yell. Maybe they point out all your negative qualities to help you. It's done like, oh, it's because I care. And so on a surface level, it doesn't look like abuse, especially if you dealt with some form of covert emotional abuse in the past. Or it could be that you've dealt with overt abuse, so you know what that looks like. And so this more hidden form of abuse can fly under your radar. And the thing is that when we don't understand what abuse looks like, and when we don't understand what's happening, we're basically like the frog in the boiling water, right? There's that saying that if you put a frog in boiling water, it will jump out because it realizes the danger. Put it in cold water and slowly turn up the heat and it boils itself to death, which is a really morbid saying. But the idea is that the subtle things can be more deadly. And so that's why it's so important to really understand what abuse looks like. So some quick signs that you can look for in yourself that can help you to reveal if you are being covertly abused. First sign is that you begin to change how you feel about yourself. Maybe you didn't have the strongest self-view, right? Maybe your perception of yourself wasn't 100%, but you will notice after a relationship with a covert narcissist, it's almost like they've taken that weak self-perception and created self-disgust in the person. Like, you hate yourself. There's such a deep level of shame that they create in the person. So that's one thing you can look for. How you feel about yourself just really kind of goes off the deep end. Another thing you can look for is a change in personality. Maybe you used to love certain things, but you don't do them anymore. You had certain characteristics when you were out with people. You don't do that anymore. You don't have those characteristics anymore. In fact, the narcissist has them, but you don't. You no longer connect or feel connected to people that meant something to you in the past. You don't feel like you have any close friends in your life. You're surrounded by people sometimes. So this is a hard one to spot, but they're people that adore the narcissist. And so they're not people that you can ever be honest with, that you can ever share something that's going on, because you know they're going to defend the narcissist and make you look like the problem. You can start to feel as if you're losing your mind. And the narcissist loves when this happens, because then they start pointing this out and saying, see, it is you. You are the problem because look at how you're changing. And, even you notice that. But what's really happening is that you are changing because the abuse, the chronic abuse and manipulation, is changing your nervous system. You're getting stuck in anxiety, dissociation, and coping skills because your nervous system is overworking to try to keep you safe. So your body starts to feel out of your control. It starts to feel like it's making decisions without your conscious consent. Another thing that's happening is that when we're living in our survival for a long time, we are literally in different areas of our brain. We're in our limbic network, which if you put your fingers in your ears and they could touch, that would be that area. That's your survival brain. We're living all the time in that area, and we're not living in our prefrontal cortex. This is our thinking brain. That's why we wind up having memory problems. We wind up having difficulty making decisions. We feel like we're in a fog, because the areas of our brain that we use for executive functioning, we're not even in them. We're in the alarm centers of our brain. So if any of this resonates, and for anyone that is on this road to recovery that has been struggling with narcissistic abuse, and if you feel like you're learning and still feeling stuck, then I invite you to check out Thriver School of Transformation, where we take the focus off the narcissist and put it on what happened to us, what happened inside, what's going on somatically that's keeping us from being who we really are. And that's where the real healing begins. So if you're struggling for a long time, I really invite you to come join us in our weekly live Zoom meetings.